So there's a lot of talk in the TRT community about microdosing and how it's a must. Do you need to do microdosing or lots of other variables available in terms of dosage frequency? We'll talk about it after this. But there's a big thing about dosing of testosterone. If you don't mind me, I just want your view on it. And what I've seen, you know, in the sort of the patient sort of group, and through talking to guys on TRT, is that obviously there seems to be generally guys injecting, you know, over a week, sort of 7 days. Generally, that's not ventured into because of obviously peaks and troughs of that sort of thing. You begin to sort of get tired and feel symptoms and things like that. But I've just noticed over the years, like this, I think social media and maybe some sort of, it's a way, maybe a sales technique by doctors or things like that. But it seems to be there's just a pattern of like, obviously in patients, you've got daily injections all the way up to generally a week, I would say, that are reasonable options for a patient to try based on, like you said, Nelson, compliance, based on other sort of how they respond to trying one and then moving on if they're going to try that, increasing dose, changing frequency. But I see like in certain spaces where they're very dogmatic, like you'll get doctors that either say, oh, everybody's got to be on a weekly injection, and they'll say something like because of scar tissue, or so everybody, you know, if you want a weekly injection, they almost create the anxiety first and then give you a way of solving it, which is coming to see them. And there seems to be like, you know, everyone's got to be on weekly, so everyone's got to be on weekly. Come to me if you want that sort of treatment, or bi-weekly or something like that. And then it's gone all the way down to sort of, I think the most recent one is everybody's going to be on microdosing daily. You know, the things they'll say theoretically, like, oh, it acts like the body's own production and mimics that sort of thing. And it may work for some people, and it may be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I would probably say 7. I know some guys have tried a little bit longer, but what do you think? My opinion from what I've seen, and I know a lot of people share it, is that you have to basically work with the doctor to find out what's going to work for you. And you can't say, I've had lots of guys that have tried every option on daily, you know, injectable testosterone or even creams, and even the numbers might look good, but they just don't get that, like you said, the symptom resolution, the better clinical outcome. Where do you sit on that? Because that's my sort of view on it, that you may look great, you may have great numbers, but you may not. It might just be you need to go to a week because maybe the different dynamics of the testosterone in the body make you feel better. What do you think?
That's a very good question. I think, as I said, and I will repeat it, simplicity is king when it comes to long-term adherence. Everybody that is on testosterone should be told that this is probably going to be a lifetime treatment. And many people don't want to think about that, but some guys say, hey, screw it, I want my life back. I think once a week is fine. 150 milligrams. We have now great esters. I mean, not now, it's 30 years old or 40. You know, enanthate, cypionate, and decanoate, that were designed for the body for a half-life that is long enough to do every 2 weeks. Every single package insert around the world for depot testosterone, any injectable testosterone, really is telling doctors in that package insert, it should be every 2 weeks, okay? Yeah. So that's the approved dosing schedule all over the world. I've seen package inserts from India, from Thailand, from Venezuela, from the UK. So obviously that's where doctors, and we are trying to walk away from that, because even the best ester, except on decanoate maybe, does tend to, the troughs tend to go too low beyond the 12th day or so. Once a week, 150 milligrams, 100 to 200, is good enough to reach to the next week, the next 7 days, levels over 500 nanograms or 9 nanomolars or whatever. Yeah. Whoever is not experiencing better sex drive, better everything with that, or with, could move to a split dose of twice a week. I believe that, and this is my opinion, this is not based on anything, any data. Nobody's done studies on daily dosing. Daily dosing is a pain in the ass. You are exposing somebody to a program that only the highly OCD guys will probably stick to over a year. But if that's a choice here in the States, hey, more power to them. Okay, so that's really a personal choice, but it's something that a clinician should not be pushing. That's setting up somebody for failure for that. Twice a week for some guys, that may be even too much to comply with. But that's a trend we're going for in the cash basis business here. The insurance side of the business, meaning, regular doctors that are prescribing it, are prescribing testosterone at 200 milligrams every 2 weeks. And we can discuss why that probably is not a great idea, but it is the only dosing schedule described in most package inserts of the generics. So they're just following the package insert. But when it comes to the parallel self-pay world, most clinics are doing the same thing. Twice a week, 50 to 75 milligrams every time, with or without HCG, with or without anastrozole, which, that's another topic. We already went over time, and I don't want to talk about anastrozole. Maybe the next time, because that's a whole hour. I believe that if somebody's trying different dosing schedules because they're not feeling the right way, there's something else going on that has nothing to do with testosterone. Testosterone is not a magic bullet. What I find, and I do coach, don't do much coaching right now, but I've coached a lot of men on the internet from all over the world. And they usually, there's like the elephant in the room, I'm saying. It's something that they don't want, unless I get deep in the question. It's usually depression, usually sleep disorders, not enough sleep, stress, relationship issues. It's very hard to be sexually attracted to somebody you're not attracted anymore mentally. And unfortunately, a lot of guys are trapped in that. And monogamy is a beautiful thing, I guess. But that is one of the issues. Depression, sleep usually is the biggest problem. So there's no injection protocol frequency that is going to fix that elephant in the room issues that I call them, because that really is the problem. And there's no testosterone, there is no anything that will change that. And that's when people get frustrated, because most men, I'm one of them, are looking for the quick fix. They hear these wonderful things about testosterone, and they, obviously you see it everywhere, and they think they're going to get muscled up, and they're going to have energy all the time. They're going to be alpha, and they're going to have an erection as needed whenever they need. So expectations, and you guys are in the business of clinics and all that, setting expectations and setting that ahead of time so that they don't chase what do you call when you're doing drugs? Chase the
dragon.
They're basically chasing the dragon by injecting different protocols and getting more and more frustrated, more and more depressed about the fact that their friends are doing well on TRT, but they're not.
Yeah.
And that's where I worry the most. I really see a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety on Excel Mail, especially from the newer guys that are coming in, constant. There's a lot of anxiety in the men's world. A lot of men don't have anybody to talk to because this is kind of personal, and thank God we have a forum that at least you can talk, to some people. Definitely. But testosterone is not going to fix 90% of those issues. Mm-hmm. It may give you what I do have to say something about testosterone that I very, very strongly believe. Testosterone does do something though. If you have low testosterone, you increase your testosterone, whatever, to the level that it should be, and that's another seminar, what the level should be. There's something that really changes, and all my friends say that, all the people I talk to, is your coping. You tend to cope better with stressors, things that you become less and less of a doormat. Mm-hmm. In your relationship, at work, less and less of letting things slide or postponing things or for later, especially difficult tasks. At least that happens to me. You become more alpha when it comes to dealing with issues, and you're actually thriving more on when the next one is. bring it on kind of attitude.
Yeah, yeah.
And that I see beyond sex, beyond libido, beyond anything else. I see that in most men.
Yeah.
But obviously, most men are also looking for that extra, like, sex drive benefit.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really good point. I say to a few guys that I've sort of coached through it that if you have, if you've got hormones and you've got everything sort of, if you separate it out into the areas of health and things to just, optimize men's health. I mean, one might argue, and I always say, you've got diet, sleep, exercise, trying to reduce stresses and things like that, and like mental health. And then hormones is part of that group, and they all need to be worked on equally, and those box ticked for the whole thing to work as best as it can. Now, we're not always going to be able to nail all of them. We're not always eating perfectly. We're not always able to be mindful or have therapy if you need it, or be aware of those things. Same with training. We all get lax with that. But if you tick the box of hormones and if you're deficient, obviously, and you're correcting those things, and then you are working on those other areas, you start to see the benefits of having optimized or just, normalized, feeling better hormones. And I think the analogy of, like, you can put great fuel in the car is not going to make you drive the car. And I found, like, speaking to guys, let's just say anxiety, mental health, and the availability of it is poor in the UK. Even in the NHS, it's just antidepressants. It seems there are some talking therapies and things, but it's very, very cut. Is that if you have guys that have started doing CBT, seeing a clinical psychologist, psychiatrist, and they're doing the things, they're doing the exercises, they're doing the exposure, things like that, or dealing with the trauma, and then they've started TRT, and actually, it's actually time that they've started to improve their hormones and get their testosterone back. And suddenly, I think it really alludes to what you said, the coping of exposing to old traumas, and, if anxiety is exposing to certain situations that you've had trauma, and that could be sexual, that could be ED, even things like that, that can all create anxiety. But even if it's social and things like that, it tends to be that the success of that effort that you put into that area of your health tends to be amplified and corrected, like it would be in the gym, or like it would be with your diet. If you have the hormones ticked, those other parts, if you work on them, tend to come together. And I think it's something to do with what you've noticed there, is that, like, self-criticism reduces, assertiveness increases. So you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this next step, and maybe take that step into, men talking about things. We, spoken to a few guys, we say we don't sit down in the pub and go, how are you? And you're like, oh, well, my penis isn't working and I'm incredibly anxious. You're never going to, like, to say those things. So there's no real chance for, and like I say, Excel Male Forum is a really nice place, just to, because you've got all those guys sharing and they're really supportive, but there needs to be more of it. But yeah, that's usually what I say. And I do see it, that when guys then begin to attack those other areas, sometimes when they feel better, once the hormones are in, that's when all of those other things come together. And testosterone can't make you just magically become a person you're not, or go and do something.
I mean, that's part of what we try to do, Sam, with our service, is make sure we're there as a coach, as someone to support you through the process, other men, patient-to-patient advocates that have been there. So that's that we try to do our bit as well. And we're happy to have the Excel Male Forum and working closely with you, Nelson, as well as we've got additional information on our own forum, which I can post up here too, as well as Nelson. So
okay.
Yeah, no, I think you guys are trailblazers. I'm very happy to see, what you guys are doing in the UK. I think you're definitely men's health activists and advocates. You really are. You're really changing everybody. All of us have a role to play. I mean, and the thing is, the beautiful thing about this, and this is why I keep doing it, is just we help people improve their lives. I mean, I get emails from people just thanking me. I mean, I can wake up in the worst mood and the most, and I read an email like that, and it's like, okay, this is why I do this. So it is addictive, the fact that we're helping people. And we have the tools to it's all about coaching people through the paths, but it's really rewarding. It's really rewarding.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, guys.
No, thank you, Nelson. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so if you want to visit Nelson's forum and website, excelmale.com, you can go and we'll put a link underneath. A lot of people know about it already, but I can't recommend it enough. I visited it years and years ago, and it was a wealth of information, and sort of quelled a lot of my anxieties about, like I say, not just TRT, but men's health in general. So if you want to head over and visit that, obviously Nelson has a selection of books beyond testosterone, the new one that we looked at the front here. I mean, I've also read his Built to Survive one, which is really interesting on sort of an HIV wellness guide, and it sort of gives you an insight into where a lot of what we do now has sort of come from, sort of stem from. And I've also got a bit of the Testosterone a Man's Guide, which I still think is pretty relevant. I know you said you've got an updated book, but it's a good book, and it was a good summary for me to read years and years ago. So thanks for putting the time to those, Nelson, and all the work you do.
No, thank you. You guys are doing great job, great work. So anytime. So let's do this again. There's a lot more topics to cover. Okay, thanks for watching. This has been Balance My Hormones. Hopefully the topics have been helpful. If you want to subscribe and ring the notification bell to get notifications for more content like this, we'll be back with more. Okay, thanks for listening.
Okay, bye.
Bye.